were particularly worried by the proposal for mandatory registration.
For many families, the National Disability Insurance Scheme has been a really complex scheme to negotiate.
So Mark is in South Gippsland this morning. G'day, Mark.
Hello, Richard.
What's been your experience?
So I have a 44-year-old son who had a massive brain hemorrhage in 2015. He now lives with a severe acquired brain injury. His journey with the NDIS has been unbelievably challenging all the way through. In 2022, I created a Facebook group which we now call ROBONDIS. We have 700 plus members. The NDIS, in reality, what it's doing is causing more stress, more distress, and more wasted money than you could ever have imagined.
Thanks for sharing for that, Mark. I'm sorry you've had such a struggle there.
I was seeing an increasing amount of conversation on the NDIS-related social media sites about the need for a class action to hold the agency to account. So we started work on a campaign for a class action against the National Disability Insurance Agency for all of the harm that it was causing to people with disability and to their families.
These systems are designed to help you, but you've got to fit what they want. The way they assess people, it's quite lengthy. It is humiliating, it is traumatising, demoralising and exhausting and very, very costly. Because the NDIS is quite rigid, and there are reasons for that, it has to be to ensure that people aren't trying to scam the system. We all know that happens in every system. There's always 1, 2, 10, 20 that ruin it for everyone else.
My experiences with NDIS are very multifaceted. In some ways, they are the most amazing program to ever come out of the Australian government. It is the first of its kind across the globe. But at the same time, it is full of problems. My last planning meeting was an absolute nightmare, to say the least. I had all of the reports from all of my medical professionals advocating for my support needs, but their computer would not let me have the supports that I need. Medical professional reports didn't matter at that point. It was really traumatizing and led me to having the worst meltdown I've ever had in my entire life. It is not a fun experience going into an NDIS meeting and coming out worse than how you started. No one should ever have to go through that.
So in my research, I'm interested to find out what is it like for people experiencing digital government systems. These systems need to work for people that they're designed for and not cause harm. But the human stories I hear from those interacting with digital government systems in the NDIS, they paint a very different story.
My problem with the NDIS has been the computer systems and the people and the way that the people and the systems interact. They don't work, they're broken, there's no humanisation in the process. You've got the computer that does its part, and then you've got the people who don't do their part. So we're in a broken system.
Every interaction I've had with the NDIS, especially relating to Alia, has been negative. And it's just this constant battle. For a long time, probably 6 years, I just accepted it because I didn't have the mental capacity, I didn't have the emotional capacity, I didn't have any capacity to fight it. So yeah, that's why I joined the ROBONDIS campaign. So there is some kind of solidarity in knowing other people have been through difficult battles as well. And it sort of gave me strength to be able to stand up and to fight.
So there are a number of different groups and online communities forming in resistance to the government's use of algorithms. And what these groups argue is that NDIS support planning is inflexible and is actually causing harm for people with disability.
It was supposed to have 10,000 people on staff, and the government just sliced it and said, no, 3,000 because we have to keep APS headcount down. The only way in which the volumes could be managed as more and more people were coming onto the scheme, more and more people would be having plan reviews and so forth, was this enormous load that could only be managed through automation. And so some decisions have actually been made by the algorithms and given approval by the bureaucrat, but effectively the decisions have been made.
Sure. So these are glasses that actually cut out the majority of like flashing and light and stuff. Okay, it's all right. So Erin, just while you're telling us a little bit about yourself. I joined the NDIS after a massive MS attack, which came with it secondary narcolepsy. I am also autistic, I have ADHD, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So what's the problem with the algorithmic approach? I would describe it if you were making gingerbread people and you were using a gingerbread cutter, you put it into the cookie and you make that. That's all they're doing, is trying to replicate that through their entire system. And I believe that there is only 1% that is not using the cookie cutter approach. I've personally met and spoken to those people and they are fantastic. We need more of them.
I don't fit a box, and the world is full of boxes for people. They do have a purpose, I do understand that. So when you go for an assessment, whether it be for ADHD or anxiety and depression, complex PTSD, EDS, multiple sclerosis, any sort of assessment, and you're being asked questions and people are ticking boxes. The point to that is to try and figure out where you fit, how to get help, to triage you, what priority are you. But when there's only 2 boxes to pick from and you don't fit either of them, that's when things get hard.
It's really problematic that the NDIA would use algorithms to help inform support planning for people with disability. This is not who you want to be trialling new systems on. We should have learnt that lesson from ROBODET.
The Royal Commission into the ROBODET scandal has handed down its findings.
A national disgrace. It was wrong, it was illegal, it should never have happened, and it should never happen again.
So ROBODET and ROBO-NDIS were created at the same time by the same people. These algorithms used to automate processing for administrative convenience without any reference as to the underlying lawfulness, ethics, and risk of harm.
What ROBODET showed us is that often the very people that are most affected by automated systems are living precarious lives with little resources or energy to spare to navigate or to fight these systems.
Before I got Hugo, I was quite unwell psychologically. I didn't really leave my house much. I was in and out of psychiatric hospitals. I was broken. And I found out about these beautiful little things. And Hugo, he's just completely changed my life. I travel, I can leave my home, I can do all these things. And I'd probably be dead if I didn't have him. I was just at my wit's end. I'd had enough. And I got him and my whole world just changed. And he's just part of everything that I do.
So the way NDIS funding works at the moment, support planners have to choose from a list of items, each with a set amount of funding. But this has caused a lot of disputes with the agency.
The whole process of getting your assistance animal covered, the delegate said to us that, there's only a line item that I can fund him under, which is like $2,800 or something like that. They wanted to fund his legs, but they didn't want to fund anything else.
For me, it's quite humiliating and embarrassing to admit that I am on disability and that I receive assistance from the NDIS. I worked for emergency services at 000. I've worked for big hospitals. I've done a lot of temping work. You know, you have to be go, go, go. My struggle has always been I look fine, but that's because nobody sees you when you're alone and nobody will see me when I'm really not okay. I am someone who some days can get up and fall straight to the floor and go, yep, I'm not leaving the house today, or if I do, I need crutch sticks, I need mobility aids, I need a driver, I need help.
Day in the life. I guess it's something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. I love my girls dearly, I love all three of my kids dearly, but the toll that it takes on me as a mother is indescribable. I gave up work when Alia was diagnosed. I had to be there for her. She was going to need therapy, she was going to need my support. I'm actually a qualified special education teacher and I've had to give up my passion. The reason I used to get up in the morning is something I was good at and I enjoyed doing and I felt I made a difference.
Constipation, slurred speech, can't bloody eat a peach, seizures for the lucky ones, incontinence. We didn't ask for this, and I tell you now, it's anything but bliss. Double vision, dizziness, pins and needles, oh heck yes, muscle spasms, persistent leg cramp.
That's the biggest thing for me is like the NDIS see a diagnosis and that's all they see. They don't see what that diagnosis does for people. And the problems with the algorithms is the algorithms don't see it either because AI is not intelligent enough.
Speaking as a support coordinator, I have seen a lot of participants go through their first plans as an autistic person. Almost every single person gets an almost identical plan. It comes down to this idea that every autistic person is supposedly the same. I do think that's the impact of algorithms. I think that is how it works. I think they see one diagnosis and chuck you a plan.
Both my girls have rare neurological conditions. The only option that they really have is other neurological. So it's not specific to your disability, but each neurological disorder presents differently. Two people with differing neurological disorders are going to need different things, but they all get lumped into one category. What it means is that they fall into the too hard basket. The way that the NDIS is touted and promoted, it's meant to be people with disabilities get what they need. And it's individual, but it's not. It's really not. As soon as you have a drop-down box, it takes away that individuality.
If you set out to design your NDIS systems for the purpose of making it hard for people to get supports, for the purpose of restricting the amount of money that you spend on supports, then you will get a product that does exactly that, and then is the subject of all sorts of contention.
People often assume that algorithms and AI are simply neutral tools, when in fact technologies are always embedded with societal values. Technologies carry the visions of their creators, reflecting their perspectives on the world. But I'm interested in what people with disability envision for their future and what role, if any, technology plays in those imagined futures.
Technology is seen as a liberator, and people with disability have said that. Technology is part of their lives, our families' lives. It is a liberator, and it does have a role in the NDIS. But as I've said, ethics and co-design are fundamental to this, and both are missing in action.
So the first first thing to do in building a far better NDIS.
Let go. Give. You have highly trained expert clinicians who know the person in detail and knows what they need.
But in the background, the data is being captured and collected and analysed. Instead of trying to use technology to prevent people from accessing supports, you use the technology to help people find what are the best supports, the most effective supports, the most cost-effective supports.
An ideal future for my girls, they are funded what they need. My son, who when he's older will take over my role, that my son won't have to have the battles that I have. They've already got somewhere to live, I've made sure of that. They've got a home for the rest of their lives. We just need to make sure that they've got the supports there. Being able to live the best lives that they possibly can, however they choose to, however that looks, but they're happy. As long as they're happy and they're able to actively contribute in some way, that would be the perfect future for me. Yeah.
I think that there is scope in the future, in the long future, for an algorithm to be able to speak for people with a multifaceted identity, which at the end of the day is everyone. But that really requires all of the input to be accurate and for no information to be missing. If you can't get the full picture into the algorithm, then how are you supposed to get an algorithm that speaks for people?
For the most part, the agency are good. They lack the staff to be able to do what they need to do. So I believe that there is definitely space for technology in the future, but the technology that I'm referring to is assistive technology, things that have helped people for many, many years. So things like that, absolutely. Assistive technology, 100%.
We are just at the beginning of the era of AI and algorithms, and disability is part of life. So in 10, 15, 20 years' time, the story of ROBONDIS and ROBODET will be just as relevant. Very important for this story to be told for the future.
Really looking forward now to turning this into a huge action that really drives some massive change in the way that governments behave when they're dealing with people who are disadvantaged.
I am not a number. I'm not a barcode, I'm not a number. I am an individual with goals and thoughts and feelings, and I think that the artificial intelligence just treats me like a number that has diagnoses in a box. At the end of the day, we are all just one bad day away from a disability, and I honestly wish that people understood that more.